Welcome, guys, to this live webinar. Avi, thanks again for being here, for your time, and of course to share all this valuable information. Hopefully, this is a lot of for a lot of value for the people that are attending. And of course, we'll do a recording of this webinar as well, so we can share with everybody. Hopefully, everybody gets again a lot of value from this.
Of course, appreciate you having me and helping getting everything scheduled and set up.
All right, perfect. So today, as you guys know, we're going to be talking about, reputation management, review management, and the benefits that go beyond, just responding, right? When you think of reviews, you think of maybe many people or many restaurant owners just think of one thing, but it encompasses a lot of things that we're going to be discussing, all those different things. And of course, how Avi and his team, Marquis and the company, really makes, this process so much easier and so much better. So just a couple of notes here before we get started. Please, turn off your cell phones, turn off your, social channels. We're going to really share a lot of things here. We're going to share our process again on how we do things, so you can implement on your side, on your end as well. Our aim here is to provide unfiltered all the information that we have on how you can use it and best utilize it, for your own restaurants. Okay, so just a short qualifier on myself, not to brag or anything. This is just so you know that what I'm talking about is real, and this comes from firsthand experience. Been in the restaurant industry since over 17 years. Own operated restaurants, and I was also head of marketing for a leading hospitality group in South Florida, operating 6 brands and 2 multi-unit brands. Of course, we work with restaurants across the U.S., helping them with their marketing, of course, reputation management as well. And we have a 99% retention rate. That means they're happy with our services, so that says something about what we do. We've got articles published in Restaurant Business Online and others, and we have a new book coming out soon. We'll definitely keep you guys informed. And this really lays out all the how we work with restaurants and plans and how to implement that, so you can do that on your end. So, and we of course work with restaurants across the U.S. And Avi, I'll turn it over to you. Just a short introduction.
Yeah. Hey, everyone. I am Avi Goren, one of the co-founders and CEO of Marquis. For those who don't know about us just yet, Marquis is a one-stop digital operations platform built for hospitality operators. This is our industry. We will help you save time on your day-to-day operations, everything from managing your menus across consumer-facing sites like Google, Yelp, Bing, Facebook, Apple Maps, your hours, all your key consumer-facing data, with a pretty substantial focus on reviews, which I know we're going to get into deeper on this webinar.
Right. Awesome, Avi. Thank you. All right, so what are we going to be covering today? So first is understanding the power of review management. Like I was mentioning before, many restaurant owners just don't have a strategy for this, and they're just kind of responding to negative reviews and some positive ones. If there's no plan in place, you're going to be missing out on a lot of benefits. So learn proven practices on how to do this properly, and we're going to talk about mastering guest recoveries, and how to really win people back after they have a bad experience. And we're going to talk also about streamlining online review management, because I know that's a big topic for everybody. I know in the restaurant business, we get super busy, right? And especially when you're managing a restaurant, and we don't have time sometimes to respond, right? And we're talking about here responding to every review. Seems like a really big task, but we're going to be talking about Avi here on ways to streamline this process and make it a lot easier for you. Okay. And lastly, we're going to be talking about a very important subject, which is turning feedback into actionable insights. That means, how can you leverage whatever you're seeing on your reviews? First of all, don't take it personal, and then use it for your benefit in many ways. We're going to share real examples that I've experienced in my time in restaurants, and Avi, of course, is going to share some experiences that he's seen with the multiple restaurants that they work with. Okay, so first, why is review management such a headache, right? People in the restaurant business, and I experienced the same thing. Is like, I thought it was a headache. I needed to deal with reviews. It's just I have so much to do, right? But so first thing is, reviews can feel personal, and everybody has been there, right? When you get a bad review and it's your baby, it's your restaurant, and you're trying to put out a great show, great food, everything, right? And they write something that makes you angry, right? So first thing you got to do is not take that personal, but that's what happens, right? and every restaurant that I talk, it feels that way, right? So it's hard to do that. So also writing genuine personal responses is time consuming, right? Because as you know, it's like and one thing I'll mention over and over in this webinar is that always remember that, reviews, right, or these platforms are a digital channel, but these are real people on the other side. So it's like a person is coming up to you and telling you something about their experience, right? And so the time that you would spend talking to them, it's time consuming, right? But in this digital world, we can make it easier and faster. And we're going to show you ways of doing that. Okay, so more reviews come in during the busiest times, making responding feel overwhelming. Yes, we've all been there. You're running restaurants, you're running a really busy shift, and then you get this negative review coming in from another location or from your same location, the guy that just left, right? So you're all stressed out trying to respond and you don't know what to do and all that stuff, right? So that happens. And it's also hard to track the connection between reviews and guest feedback and in-store processes, right? So again, this is something that happens, but then we're going to be talking about the tools that are going to make this easier for you. Okay. All right. So this is really our map for restaurant marketing that we created at Breath. So basically, it just shows all the different touch points where your customer comes into contact with your restaurant, with your brand, right? So many people ask me, hey, which channel should I use? Where should we be, right? My answer is everywhere, right? So there's not one thing that works. It's all of the things together, and depending on your concept and your audience, some are going to be more effective than others, right? But you need to be everywhere, okay? And part of this is, of course, reviews, and which sometimes kind of gets seen as it's just reviews is separate from marketing, but it's not. It's part of that, right, Avi?
Yeah, and I love this slide, this map, right? It's a good demonstration of just how difficult it is to run a successful marketing and touchpoint campaign with a restaurant, and more locations, more problems, right? And so being able to kind of pinpoint different issues, different ways and flows to make sure you're managing each part of this is so important.
100%. So as you guys can see here in this graphic, we got guest retention next to successful review for a reason, right? Because if a person goes to a restaurant and has a great experience, chances are these days they'll write a great review, right? If you really wow them. So now, if you respond to that review, well, of course, if it's a negative one, you need to respond to them. But if you respond and you build that connection with that guest, the chances are that person is going to be coming back, right? So that's why it's there. And if they have a negative review, of course, there's a chance. It doesn't happen every time. If you can address it, if you do it properly, you can win that guest back. Okay, and that's going to be, of course, part of the retention process. Okay, so the power of having a review management strategy. Now we're going to be really diving into this part, right? Again, like I mentioned, many restaurant owners fail to do this because, again, it has so many moving parts sometimes. But we don't see it. You can be a strategy created for this, but there is. So some really cool stats here, or interesting stats, eye-opening stats, I would say, for when we're talking about reviews. So over 60% of customers read reviews before visiting a restaurant. And maybe you guys have heard of this stat, but it's incredible. So that means, and from those 60%, 79% of consumers say they trust reviews they read online as much as personal recommendations. So that means, imagine they'll go to a friend and ask, hey, what restaurants do you recommend? They'll trust the reviews as much, right, as that person's, as that friend, right?
Right. Well, I mean, it's, at my last birthday party, I probably only had 20 people, but on Yelp, I've got 3,000 friends. Right. And so being able to expand that network and broaden those recommendation circles is huge. Right. And then when you think about your previous slide about responding to reviews, if 60% are reading reviews, they're reading responses. Right. Mm-hmm. Are you involved? Are you being heard? Will these issues be mitigated in the future?
Right. 100%. So so this just goes to show you the importance of reviews, right, and the relevance that they have. So 45% of consumers are more likely to support businesses if they see that they've responded to negative reviews, like you were saying, Avi. There is that, if as a customer, right, they're coming to you and they see negative reviews, nobody responds, they're like, oh, these guys don't care. That would probably be the perception, right? But if they see you're consistently responding to these reviews, there's a genuine care behind it. Remember, we're in the hospitality business. It doesn't matter if you're in person or if you're talking to them in a digital channel. We're applying the same rules. If they show up to your restaurant, they have a bad experience, right? You will go out of your way to make sure they leave happy. So this is kind of the same thing, but on a digital channel. All right, so what makes a great review management strategy? And these are some of the things, right? So first, sets you apart from the competition. Like we were saying, Many restaurants don't respond to all reviews. They just respond to some negative reviews because, they don't have the time or they don't have a system. And we're going to talk about systems and processes later to streamline this. But, so by you having a strategy and doing it correctly, you're already ahead of the competition, right? Again, you're connecting with guests. This is what it's all about, right? And that's what we do in hospitality, like I just mentioned. So this is a big part of it. So it gives you data and insights about customer preferences and expectations. Okay, so I can share with you guys a lot of stories about this stuff, but we've actually made a lot of decisions at our restaurants, from this insights, from this feedback that we get on the reviews, and we can really see what people's expectations and preferences are. We've updated happy hour menus. We've updated our regular menus with feedback that we're receiving through these platforms. Right. So we're going to these review channels. So we're going to share some more examples as we move on in the presentation, but just for you to keep in mind. So also it encourages return visits through guest engagement. Again, like I was saying, this is a digital channel, but it's a one-to-one connection, right? So that's what we need to always remember, because sometimes you see the text, the reviews coming in, it's like, yeah, I see it in my phone, and you don't really feel, it doesn't feel like it's a person, right? Sometimes. So it definitely encourages that return visit, of course, through that guest engagement. That means you're relating to them one-on-one. Okay. And lastly, it improves SEO and online visibility. Avi, I know you can talk a lot about this part.
Yeah, and we'll definitely dive into it a little bit more. When you think about SEO and local SEO, and I think it's on the next slide, really there's three core pillars, right? There's distance, relevance, and prominence. Distance. How far are you from what you're searching for, right? If I'm in Austin, Texas, searching for coffee near me, I don't care about the best coffee in Miami, right? So relevance distance is crucial. When you think about relevance, how much does this business listing match what they're searching for? Again, going back to coffee, I don't need to see a pizzeria in Austin. I don't need to see a burger place in Austin, right? I'm looking for coffee. And then third, prominence. How much is your restaurant found in other places online, right? Whether that's additional listings like Yelp, Bing, Facebook, Apple Maps, if that's press releases, top 10 places, infatuation, you name it, right? Being found and being found more frequently impacts your local SEO. Now, what I happen to love about reviews, besides a streamlined, efficient way to get feedback directly from your customer base, is it's an opportunity to take advantage of essentially free content, right? How are you responding to these reviews? Are you dropping in LTOs? Are you dropping in other menu items? Are you shouting out certain locations, right? Being able to talk about and call back menu items is such a great way to input additional keywords and local SEO kind of tricks of the trade, right? Keywords are so important. People, again, we talk about local SEO and it's this puzzle, and there's so many pieces, and keywords is one of them, right? And when you think about looking for the best burger near me, and this is kind of one of those situations, I know we included a screenshot. This is from a search up in Boston, Massachusetts, not Boston, Texas. And if you're looking up best burgers near me, a few things you're going to notice. Step one, the ratings that Google will provide are only 4 stars and up. So Google defines best in class as 4 stars and up. And then second, if you zoom in on the comments and the reviews include the word best. Every single one of these locations in the 3-pack include the word best burger in their reviews, right? These search results are pulling review data. They're pulling review response data. If you look for gluten-free on Yelp, you're going to see reviews and review responses that include gluten-free. So it's so important to take free advantage of this content.
100%, Avi. And that's something, we also saw on our end, right? And like you were saying, when we were launching a new happy hour menu, for example, right? And we wanted to increase our happy hour menu sales, right? Just in general, and position ourselves there. We started including, and that was a while back ago, but in almost every review response, we would take that opportunity, right, to include happy hour, best happy hour, right? So with time, again, we started ranking for that. We started getting found, right? So yes, super powerful. All right, so we just going back one slide, because we kind of jumped into this, but it is important that, when you're creating your review management strategy, there's certain things that you need to keep in mind, right? So first is defining your process, because like again, I was saying at the beginning, many people don't have a process. So they're just responding as the reviews are coming, so they get overwhelmed, right? So here you need to define a process. Who's going to be in charge of responding to those reviews, right? What's going to happen next? And we're going to talk about that process, okay? Then creating review response templates. Okay, so templates are very important and very useful. Like Avi was mentioning, it's not just, for SEO purposes of having your list of keywords that you're going to include, right, in these responses, but have a slew of response templates, right? So for 5-star reviews, these are the different things that can happen, and these are the different responses that we can have, right? For 4-star reviews, what can, different scenarios, again, for food, service, whatever it is that you come up with, and you have those different templates, right? And the same thing for 1, 2, 3 stars, right? And there's different ones that you can use. For example, when something really bad happens, let's say somebody's claiming food poisoning. Okay, what do you do then? So you got to have a template for that and a process for that. Okay, so they're really helpful to streamline the responses. But think about it this way: this is just an aid. You still need to read your reviews, right, and make these responses personalized, right?
There's no easy button. There's an easier button.
Exactly. You still got to dedicate the time. You still need to put in the work. Is going to make it faster and easier, right? But but having these are going to be very helpful to you, again, to streamline the process. Okay, so we talked about also SEO and keyword goals, right? That we just covered, and now you're jumping into this with this section of the SEO part. Just wanted to share a quick case study. This is actually one of our clients in South Florida, Padrino's restaurant. So they have 5 locations. We've been working with them for over 3 years, and we started working with implemented Marquee, working with Padrino's. We actually use Marquee for all of our clients. This is really the best platform out there, and it really is, Howie. I mean, it really is. I've tried many different platforms during my restaurant days, and now on the marketing side, and as an agency, our perspective is very honest, right? And that's why clients really decide to work with us, because they know we've been on their shoes, and they understand that we're not trying to sell them anything. We're just being very, direct, right, and honest. So, as you can see here in this graphic, this is when we first started using Marquee, right? And just if you look at this graphic, it's just been, the performance just been, getting better and better over time, right? Look at the Google Actions and look at the search maps, right? And how many times these guys have been viewed, and how much, they have actually increased that visibility.
Yeah, and what I love about these, look, we're data nerds at Marquee. We love looking at insights, telling stories, again, understanding we're a piece of the puzzle and what else is going on. And so in a restaurant group like Padrino's, again, you think Florida, some seasonality, while we see increases month over month, it's also important to see the year over year, right? December versus December, right? Apples to apples, and just seeing that growth and new peaks is exciting. And it's good to see that kind of organic, structured growth with these types of restaurant groups, right? Because that's the only way you can get better, is if you grow.
Exactly. So, in all the strategies that we're sharing here, they're going to really help you, have this growth, right? But Marquee, honestly, it has been crucial in this, not just, of course, the review response side, the other side of Marquee, which is list, right, management. And, of course, Avi will talk about that a little bit more in a second, but it really has helped, all the restaurants that we work with. We kind of see a similar trend. I mean, of course, keeping in mind that their operations, their food, everything is good, right? Because if that's failing, you're not going to see a trend like this.
Right. Good listings, good menus, and good reviews can't fix bad food. So that's step 1.
That's it. That's just, that's what you need to play. All right. So, okay. So now, next thing is monitoring. Okay. So that means you need to be looking at your reviews. Yes, I would say every single day. But again, having the right tools like Marquee can help streamline this process tremendously, okay? Because you're bringing all these reviews from all these different channels into one place. So it's going to be very easy for you to be looking at one single dashboard where you're seeing what's going on with your reviews, right? So it's super important. You can also set up notifications, right? To get any reviews that are coming in, you can get an email. So an email notification that you get a review, okay? Then Proactive review generation, this is something that you want to have in your strategy as well. I'm not going to dive too deep into this, but I know that it depends on how you do it. But if you're sure that person's having a great experience, by all means, again, this platform also helps with this. But you can also use different tools to keep the feedback internal, so you can address it. Okay, performance tracking. So people will ask, so how the heck do I do performance tracking for reviews, right? Because they're like, performance tracking? I mean, yes, bad reviews, good reviews, all this stuff. This is just a screenshot of a reporting, how the reporting looks in Marquee, right? In terms of, what's their average rating, how many 5-star reviews, how many 4-star reviews they got. See, there's different metrics and KPIs here that you can track. And this is really important, right? And when we were at the restaurants, when we were at the hospitality group, basically, I mean, we use this reporting all the time at manager meetings, because we would base also some bonuses and some structures based on the restaurant's performance. And this was there was a metric that we included in that restaurant's performance, right? Because that means, it shows a lot, right? How's the operational side, the execution, the service, the food, all of that stuff, right? You can see all of these things here. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we talk a lot about how reviews are really just the other side of expectations, right? Have expectations been set or met, right? And so as your team and your restaurant set certain expectations of service and food and experience, being able to maintain those expectations through these kinds of insights and with your team it's crucial, right? It's an easy way to monitor that.
100%. And then we have, of course, training and guidelines. Like I was mentioning, this is not just a wing it thing, right? Like just tell the server to respond to reviews. You don't want to do that, right? You want to have a proper training in place. So just like you have a training process for anybody that's going in the kitchen, right? Anybody's going in line and you're showing him how to do things properly, and they have they have a recipe book that they need to follow, all of that stuff, right? It's the same thing when you're training somebody to respond to reviews, because it can be a delicate subject, right? Especially if there are any reviews that are touching, some delicate matters, like, there's, again, food poisoning, or there was theft or something that happened, right? So they need to be properly trained. And I've had instances, when we were first getting started a long time ago, we didn't have that training, right? So then we had somebody responding to reviews, and, that person didn't know what really they were doing. And we had one of these delicate situations, which they responded the wrong thing. And of course, the guest got more upset, and it became a whole thing, right? So having the proper training and guidelines is essential. All right, so we're gonna here just stop for a second, just a quick second for questions. What have you learned? Anything that you've noticed? Anything that you want to ask? Okay, let me see. All right. So yeah, here's a question. Mark, how many response templates should I have? So as a rule of thumb, I'll tell you our process. Okay, we have from 4 to 5 response templates per rating, basically. So we have one for service, we have one for food, we have one for ambience, we have a general one, right? So we have all of those different templates. And then we have variations of those, because with time, you want to be changing those up. Okay, so that's kind of in a nutshell, or a rule of thumb of what we do. Again, you can have more, right? I wouldn't recommend less, because it's really going to help you to have those different variations, right? Okay, then we got Tony. Okay, how often do you respond to positive reviews? Do I need to respond to all of them? Yeah. So really, you do. I know, again, you think it's time consuming, but again, we're going to be covering how to streamline that process, right? How to make it quicker for 5-star reviews and 4-star reviews, and to make it faster. But yes, you definitely do, and especially what Avi was talking about, SEO practices. You have the opportunity there on every single review that comes in to do that. Okay, so again, this is a marathon. This is not a sprint. But if you consistently practice this over time and you implement it, you will be seeing those results.
Well, especially if you go back to the fact that, as you shared earlier, 60% of restaurant researchers are checking out reviews. So positive and negative, just knowing that you're reading it, taking the feedback, showing your voice, right? It's a missed opportunity otherwise that you should just be taking advantage of.
100%. And you know what? Also, something about positive reviews that, there's, again, we're in the hospitality business. When somebody writes a great review, right? They come in and say, man, your restaurant is fantastic, is the best, this person did the best service, like all of this stuff. Okay, so instead of just leaving that as that and say, hey, thank you so much, whatever, why don't you go beyond that and say, hey, you know what? Thank you so much for this. I want to invite you and another friend back, because incentives aren't just for negative reviews. They can also be applied to positive reviews. So imagine how much of a loyalist that person is going to be if they wrote a beautiful review for you, and then you also offer something. You go the extra mile, give them something, and then they come back. Of course, they're going to be 100% loyal guests. Okay,
right.
Yep, Avi, I get a question. There's a question for you, Christy, saying, what keywords should I include for my restaurant? Our restaurant is a steakhouse.
Fun question. Look, it's going to depend on what's going on with your restaurant, right? It's October 30th. If you're getting ready to do any kind of like Thanksgiving meal, whether it's to go or in-house, it's a great opportunity to say, hey, thank you for the 4-star review. Appreciate you coming in and trying XYZ. If you're looking for an opportunity for your Thanksgiving meal, come back and try, and here's the name of your special, right? Whatever it might be. That's a great opportunity to talk about LTOs, right? If your steakhouse is we'll go back to Boston, right? Hey, appreciate you coming in. Make sure you come back next time you or any of your friends are in Boston looking at the Celtics, coming to an XYZ game, right? Being able to really implement future LTOs or menu items that set you apart. Maybe you have a specialty cocktail that you're trying to push more. Maybe you're trying to push more of your wine program, right? Opportunities to come in and really highlight what you're working on. I brought my team previously to one of Sebastian's restaurants down in Miami, and a great opportunity in that response to talk about groups, right? Group dining. We were 8-9 people, and it was incredible, just like if we were 2 people. So really figuring out what's important to your restaurant, and that's how you start leveraging those keywords, right? It's not a one size fits all, it's a one size fits one.
Right. And one more question for Avi's comment is, okay, who can I set up automated notifications when a review comes in so that our managers receive it?
Absolutely. The way that we structure notifications at Marquee is understanding that everyone kind of operates differently, right? Some people like to have their phone glued to them, and as something comes in, see it immediately. With our higher location count clients, even 3, 4, 5 location count clients, they prefer kind of scheduling time, right? So on Monday mornings, you're going to get a notification of all your previous week's reviews. On Wednesday, maybe you want it Monday and Thursday, right? Being able to kind of work within your schedule and situate the notification so that it works for you.
Awesome. Yep. We had that system implemented. Basically, we had notifications, immediate notifications. Any reviews that were under 4 stars needed to be addressed immediately. That's our policy. So we had notifications to the managers so they can also see, and sometimes if we're quick enough, the review can be written and the person's still sitting at the restaurant. so and it happened. So if you catch it in the moment, right? I would be with my phone when I was at the restaurant on my pocket. I would see any notification, I would just pull it out immediately. It's like, oh, okay. And I would just kind of look. There was somebody there at the restaurant still that was talking, that actually wrote that review. So we had a chance to fix it in the moment. And that's of course, that's super powerful. Imagine somebody writing a review and then the server, somebody comes into the manager is like, oh, I just saw that you actually wrote a review.
And it's powerful. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. So we're fortunate to be living in this technology driven world because it helps restaurants do a lot of things a lot better. All right. Any other questions? All right, that's it. I think we're gonna move on. Okay. All right. So now we're gonna be talking a little bit about mastering guest recovery. Guest recovery means once somebody has a bad experience and they write a bad review, now the question becomes, how can we win them back? Okay. And this is our process that we use for guest recoveries. Okay. And we've used it for a number of years at my time of the restaurant. We use it as, of course, in the agency with other restaurants that we work with. And it's proven to be very effective. Again, this is not every time that you're going to be doing this, does not guarantee that person's going to come back. Just like if you were in person and you're trying to talk, to a guest that had a bad experience and asking, hoping that he will, come back, and you're giving him a free bottle of wine, whatever it is that you're doing in the moment, that doesn't guarantee that they'll come back, right? It's really going to depend on different factors, okay? But this is a process that's going to help you streamline this and to, be effective with your efforts. Okay, so first of all, you want to create a email that's designated for customer relations. or for this specifically. So that means this has two purposes. The first thing is, is taking the conversation offline, because sometimes it happens that there is again, delicate matter, right? Or you don't know the guest and what state of mind he is. I mean, because there's everything out there. And so they're writing a review to you. And if you keep responding on the platform, it could go sideways sometimes, not all the time. But if somebody, he's very angry and responds again, and as you see the whole thing kind of building that, you want to take that offline, right? And also, it is going to be a more of a personal touch, meaning that now they have direct access to you, right? And then you're providing your phone number, all that stuff when you're exchanging emails, so then you can talk to them, okay? Then of course, then we're going to define the recovery offers and incentives. You're going to be really clear on this, right? What are you going to be offering for somebody that has a bad experience? Our rule at restaurants was they get a free meal for two, right? Or one or two. If they want to bring another person, we didn't care. We comped the whole thing. Whatever they wanted to have, they could have it. And some people, yes, they went overboard and they ordered a ton of stuff, right? And the bill was really high. And some people will tell me, with restaurants that we work with, sometimes, man, no, the food costs, it's too much. I'm like, they're taking advantage. Like, it doesn't matter. You know why? Because the lifetime value of a customer is way beyond what you're going to spend on food costs on a couple of food items, right?
100%. People eat 3 times a day. They'll come back, right?
Yep. And, so, and beyond that there's a statistic. I don't know the exact numbers, but I know that for every negative, experience that somebody has, they'll go out and tell about 16 people. And for any positive, experience that they have, they'll probably tell about 3 people. Okay. So there's a huge gap there. So you want to make sure that you do everything in your power to make that person or those people happy. And so then you have a good chance for them to come back. That doesn't mean they're going to change their review. Sometimes it happens. If you really wow them and you have a process in place how to do this properly, the chances are that they are. Okay. So don't hold back on giving away stuff. Okay. It pays off. Okay. In the long run. So communicate clearly with ops team. That's another really important step in taking when you're doing this, because what happens is, if there's no clear communication with ops, and it happened to us a few times, right? That, somebody was coming back and we didn't communicate with on time, or we gave the wrong time or whatever to the operations team. And then, the guests would show up and they didn't even know they were showing up, so they had twice a bad experience, right? So the one they had at the beginning, now they come back and they didn't even know they were coming, right? And then they're calling me, it's like, oh, this guy, who's this guy? The manager's calling me or whatever, and it was a terrible experience. So you want to make sure you have a clear step on how to communicate with the ops team and include, an email draft there where you say, okay, this is the time that it's coming, what the offer is going to be, how many people are coming, the names, all the information that you can include, right? So you can make that process a lot smoother. Okay. And then transparent communication with guests, be very specific also. Okay. If you're comping those 2 meals, right, so for them too, like just make it very clear, because sometimes they come with different expectations.
Yep.
So, just make that part of your process so everybody's clear on every side. Okay. Prepare the operations team. Again, we were talking about wowing the guests. Okay. We're in a hospitality business. If they had a bad experience, you want to make it up for them. Don't take things personal. Just make it great for them. It doesn't matter what they wrote. Okay. So you're really trying to win them back. Okay. You're trying to wow them. So have a plan in place with your ops team, with your managers, that when somebody comes as a guest recovery, make that experience incredible. Okay. Have the chef come in, just really, wow them. Okay. There's so many ways you can do that. Build the feedback loop between with the marketing team. If you have a marketing team in place, or if you have somebody that's doing marketing, have that feedback loop, because it's going to be crucial. And Marquee plays a big part in this part, because you have all the information there on the reporting and on of course looking at what's going on with your reviews, and having that conversation on your manager meetings, on a weekly basis, or if you're doing these every 2 weeks, whatever it is, right? Because that's going to help you get better at your operations and communicate what's going on, in your business.
Over communication can remove so many issues. and so many problems, and really allowed people to work with a little bit more autonomy, right? If you're over communicating and they know what's going on, you can be more confident in decision making.
100%. So imagine, we had at the beginning, again, we were growing pains when we were still, really starting out. There was a lot of back and forth between operations and marketing, right? And there's a relationship there between marketing and operations. Sometimes they don't like each other because marketing is stepping on operations teams when executing, and same thing the other way, operations. So it's not valuing what marketing is doing, that whole thing, right? But the way we fix that is communication, right? So we started, we had meetings every single week, and we addressed all of these things, of course, reviews and everything that was related to operations. So marketing could be informed, and then marketing was informing operations so they can understand what was going on, right? So that communication is key. All right. So then demonstrate genuine care, of course. Again, remember, this is a person on the other side. You're not just writing to some random person. Okay. So just be, personalize your response, right? And also when they're showing up, be genuine, right? And then also follow up. Okay. So when that person shows up to the restaurant, let's say they had a great experience, call them. Right now you have their information, and then can see how it went, right? Okay, so that is of course, that's how you really turn, those guests into loyal guests. Okay, and then track recovery success. So just keep track of this, to see, what's your success rate in terms of guest recoveries. It depends on the restaurant, and it depends on many factors. That's going to fluctuate, and but if you really implement all these steps that we're talking about here in a really good way, you'll see the results, right? Okay, so now we're going to get into a really cool part of the presentation, which is how to streamline the review management, right? And this is something that everybody wants to know because, again, it's super time consuming. And Avi, I'll leave this to you.
Appreciate it. Again, so much good information and kind of just like best in class tactics here that Sebastian was sharing. When you have to do this, there's no easy way. We talked about this earlier. There's no easy button, right? There is, however, a way to make review management easier. So when you think about what sites you're worried about, whether it's Google, Yelp, Facebook, TripAdvisor, Apple Maps, right? Everywhere that you're getting these kind of third-party reviews from, it's so crucial to be able to aggregate, monitor, and manage in consolidation in one dashboard, right? So at Marquee, we're pulling in all that key data for you, giving you ways to have digestible insights, right? Whether it's through the use of my personal favorite, word clouds, because again, the value of a word cloud is so straightforward. If you look at your word cloud of all your reviews from the last 30 days versus 90 days versus this time last year, you should be seeing different words associated with different reviews, right? Maybe a year ago, you were dealing with service issues and you're seeing that tied to 3 stars. Maybe now you're seeing portions tied to 2 stars as we start to deal with shrinkflation, right? All sorts of things that you can monitor and track through easy, digestible data sets. A tool that we launched probably about 4 months ago now that has just kind of taken up by storm with our client base, and one that I'm really proud of, is a concept of AI plus HI, artificial intelligence with human intelligence for review response. We spoke earlier about templates, and templates are so important. Being prepared, being able to handle situations quickly, efficiently, and with impact, right? The reality is we have some clients who are getting thousands of reviews a month. Even if you're getting 50 plus reviews a month, it's time consuming. The idea of letting AI just run wild with responses, it's borderline irresponsible, right? You just, it's not going to respond in a meaningful way with thought. It's not going to respond in a way that then alerts you, and you're just kind of pushing and clicking buttons, right? A key example I actually like to give, when we were first training the AI that we use, we had a client in New York City in Union Square have a review that talked about parking being difficult. And the AI response mentioned that they're working on parking improvements. No, you're not. You're not fixing parking in Union Square in Manhattan. That's just not happening, right? So we leverage your brand manager as an extension of your brand to help manage those responses and make sure that we're creating efficient turnaround and highlighting ones that you need to spend more time on, right? So it allows you to be more efficient. All of those reviews, and I think I mentioned this earlier, are really just, again, they're the results of expectations being set or met. So when we talk about listing accuracy and menu accuracy, those are your expectations. If I say I'm open and I show up and there's a piece of paper taped to the door saying we're closed for whatever reason, that's a bad experience. That's a bad expectation, right? Menus, whether you're raising your prices because you're going for more sustainable fish options, or you're dealing with happy hour changes, all of that needs to be updated. So as a consumer, I'm coming in and experiencing the most up-to-date expectation, right?
Mm.
All of that is so crucial when you think about this puzzle of reviews and local SEO. So all of this ties together to create an efficient, powerful experience for your customers, right? And it's a way to simplify and ease this really difficult manual process otherwise. So you can go back to doing what you love, which is running the restaurant.
100%. So, we use this platform for, managing reviews for our clients. And again, just make things a lot easier. The AI tool, definitely has been a game changer. Of course, if you're a restaurant or you're using this yourself, it's super easy. If you're working with an agency, of course, it's going to make their lives easier also for responding and making this, process faster and more efficient and effective, actually. Cool. So, all right. So now moving on to the next part, which is, a very important part, right? And, how do you turn feedback into actionable insights? Again, I know this is spending time reading reviews, and yes, you have to spend the time on this. Okay. And the way to do this, again, it's through processes. It's not about, oh man, I don't have time to look at reviews every day. No, you look at the bad review, you need to answer it, you answer it, right? But then there's a process to look at this. There's a time and a place, right? So that's what it's all about. Setting a time block. We're going to say, okay, this is the time we're going to be looking at reviews. And then once you look at them, you go through it, you're going to be able to, take out some insights from there. And then you're going to be able to share it with your operations team. It's going to make your whole operation a lot better. Okay. So first is identifying trends and patterns. Listen, and you just by looking at your reviews and reading them, you will be able to see this. Okay. Part of what we do with any onboarding with a new client, with a new restaurant client, we actually do this. We go back to all of the reviews, right? This is social listening, right? And then just reading and looking through all the reviews and see if there's any patterns, right? Because many restaurant owners, they miss them, right? So that's one of the first things that we do. We're going to be building their strategy because we want to understand if there's anything that's going on, right? And that's going to help us create a strategy for you. Okay. So for example, we see patterns if somebody's complaining about pricing. We see patterns if there's somebody complaining about service, or we see if actually, or maybe good stuff, right? They really rave about their burgers, right? And they're not really leveraging their burgers enough, right? And they're not really, leveraging that type of content. Okay. Or if we see that, their happy hour menu is not great. And then we look for trends with that. Okay. Hey, so there needs to be a revamp here. And then we use that data and compare to other reporting that we pull, of course, sales and all that stuff. And then we see patterns, we identify patterns, and that's how we build strategies for restaurants. And that's what you should be doing for your restaurant as well. Okay. And then prioritize areas of improvement, because it's going to tell you, okay, which ones, when you really look at all this information, it's going to help you see, okay, what do I need to focus on? Okay. What should we be improving? Okay. And menu development. I have a lot of stories here. And of course, our days at my days at the restaurants, we actually had it's a Peruvian Japanese restaurant, right? And then we were getting a lot of responses, a lot of reviews that were talking about fish quality, right? And this was back in the day when the sustainability aspect of things in fish, in seafood started getting very popular, right? So we started seeing a pattern here, and we started seeing that it was coming up in the reviews, and we couldn't ignore it, right? And it was a very big decision, because that really, it was like 30%, is that 20-30% of our menu, really. So, and again, we were known for ceviche, right? We were known for that dish. So it was a very important decision. So based on this feedback, we were able to make the right decision, and we changed our fish, right? And then, of course, the next step is letting people know what you're doing, right? We put it in the menu and everything, and we said, the type of fish that we were using and all the stuff to create that value perception, right? And so again, that's just an example of what we did with that. So service enhancements, okay, this is another very important aspect. And then again, we also I can give you an example with that. We were operating different multiple locations, So that can get out of hand really quick, right? So we were looking at what was going on, in the reviews, and we could identify if there was a pattern, in service, right? And we actually took the information that were coming from the reviews and we implemented some of those things in our steps of service, because we knew that there was something missing, something lacking, and then we built it into the process. Okay, restaurants are all about processes. Okay, and so the same thing here. Using the right tools, you'll be able to create a process that is going to be it's going to help you really build this strategy. It's going to make things a lot easier for you and more effective. Okay, so operational changes, same thing, right? So you identify even bottlenecks of how your operation is flowing, right? If the cocktail took too long, why are the cocktails taking so long? Now you can go back. If you see a pattern there, people complaining about cocktails taking too long to get to their table, and saying, you know what? There's a bottleneck there when they're getting tickets. There could be even an issue with a printer. There could be an issue of just how the flow of the restaurant's built. Like, there's so many things that you need to consider when you're getting this. But this information is going to be crucial for you to be able to make those changes, okay, and those decisions. Competitive analysis, we use this as well. When we're looking at direct competitors in our restaurants, I was reading their reviews because I wanted to see, hey, what's going on with them? Are people saying great things about their ceviche as well? Are they saying great things about just other dishes? Like, what's going on? You know what I mean? So there's, dedicated time to this, because you're going to find a lot of information that's going to be useful for you.
I love that. Actually, I feel like we help with competitive analysis and kind of seeing how you rank in comparison to the number, but not with review content. And I love that. That's so interesting. That's good.
Yeah. I mean, it takes time, right, to do it, but it's 100% worth it, right? And again, that's something when we're building a strategy for a restaurant that we're working with, we look at their competitors and we look at their reviews, because we want to understand, what they're doing and what this other restaurant is doing or not doing, right? And then what we can do about it. Okay, so staff training and recognition. I know, Avi, I think you have a story about this, but same thing. We did started seeing some people mentioned on our, from our team on reviews, and we actually created an incentive based on that, right? So then people wanted to be mentioned in the reviews. Okay. Avi, I think you wanted to story about that.
Yeah. So we have a client, Free Range Concepts. There are 13 restaurants across 5 concepts. And they actually created a system that connects in-person experience to online reviews, and then incentivizes managers to get in-the-moment guest feedback, and then empowers their brand and store managers to right wrongs and turn upset guests into raving fans, right? And I know, look, they're not the first people to ever come up with this, but anytime you hear and see about a restaurant group implementing this circle and loop of information, it's worth shouting out and talking a bit more about, right? The way that they chose to kind of go about this on the day-to-day, again, 5 concepts. Each concept has a brand manager who's responsible for tracking and responding to reviews, right? They become a leader and an expert in that brand. The brand managers work closely with the store managers, and then they use reviews to find patterns in guest feedback and communicate directly with guests, right? Like you said, whether it's taking too long to get a drink or an item maybe underpriced or overpriced, right? Each morning, the brand managers review the end of night reports from each location, followed by review summaries from the Marquee dashboard. Throughout this process, they've been able to actually connect reviews back to the in-store experience, understand what processes create memorable guest experiences, and then spread great ideas amongst their concepts and locations co-departmentally, right? So this whole loop gets put in motion, and it kind of never ends, right? Every day you're serving hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of guests. You're getting more and more and more feedback, positive and negative, right? And you're just creating this flywheel of improvement, right? Because that's what it's all about. Like you said, it's hospitality. If you're not providing a great experience at whatever level it is, right? Whether it's 2 a.m. dollar pizza in New York or an Argentinian steakhouse in Miami, right? It's all about that high level experience for that moment. And so this helps get that going.
100%. Yeah, it's a great story. We experienced, same thing, and we had a similar process to what you're describing. And okay. So then now we have a consistency check. This is the last thing on, and this is, just it'll show you, like, if you're looking at this, if there's consistency in service, right? We had, again, one of our restaurants, 5-star reviews consistently, and the other stores weren't getting those 5-star reviews every time. So then, we identified that it was the team, really, right? Because one of the restaurants have a really good training and a good team that was executing. The other restaurants weren't there yet, right? So we needed to take that action to get them to that level, so we could consistently get that type, those reviews. Again, this is incredibly valuable information. All right, so that's what we have today. So, when we're talking about strategy and review management, and here are just some questions. If you're considering, or if you're working with a marketing agency that's handling this for you or your marketing, then there's a few questions here that you want to definitely ask. So, do you have a solid understanding of restaurant operations and the business itself? I mean, the truth is that, as you guys just heard right now in this presentation, if your agency doesn't have an understanding of what's of operations, they're just responding to your reviews, but they understand what's happening on the other end, there's going to be a gap, right? And they won't really be able to help you to the level that you really need to, right? So it's really important to have, to ask them this question, okay? And do they work only with restaurants or other businesses as well? Again, no two businesses are created equal, especially the restaurant world. Avi, I think you can attest to that.
This industry it's not like anything else, right? I think we said it earlier, people eat 3 times a day, 365 days a year. How many times a year are you buying a t-shirt or a pair of pants, right? This industry faces different sets of problems, different consumer journeys, different tech stacks. So to try and blanket it as a brick and mortar issue it's not fair to the industry or to you, right? So getting that hyper focus on restaurants and hospitality, it's a long-term benefit.
Yep, 100%.
Right.
So, what platforms and channels do they use or recommend? Of course, if they know restaurant platforms, because it's going to be very important. If they don't understand restaurant platforms, chances are they're going to be not going to be able to help you as well, right? Do they have a guest recovery process in place, like we just discussed? And are they proficient in, we talked about this, restaurant-specific platforms? And not just for, of course, we were talking about Marquee here, but again, different, like your POS, how does that work? How does that reporting look like? How do I tie in their marketing efforts to, the reporting on their POS, right? So being well-versed in that is super important. So definitely your marketing agency needs to have this, okay? Also, what do their reports look like? Okay, what are the KPIs metrics that they actually measure? Okay, as you guys saw here with in this presentation, we showcased some of the reporting, what that looks like. So you want to make sure they have a robust reporting, so they can really, you can really see if they're actually delivering on their promise. Okay, and what makes our review management better or different? Yes, again, 17 years of experience in the restaurant industry. We know hospitality online and offline. Right? Like I was saying, there's people on the other side. Okay, it's not little avatars. So then we have a proven method and strategy that we've built in our restaurants and also with our clients. And we have, of course, a proven guest recovery system, and then we respond immediately to all negative reviews. And of course, we set notifications, everything so your team can get notified. We coordinate those return visits with your team, and we have that whole process set in place. And of course, complete transparency. We're going to be always honest and transparent with you. And we've been on the restaurant side before, so we're really here on your side. Okay.
I think what makes Breath Marketing so unique and special is the former operator component, right? Having been in that seat, in those shoes, and just being able to relate to every aspect of running a restaurant, not just the marketing, right? Because there's so many different things that are stressful and difficult in running a restaurant. Yes, right. Your specialty is in marketing, but you've seen it all, right? And having that understanding and compassion for someone also means you're not going to bother them on upcoming holidays, knowing the busy hours. You don't call them during lunch, right? Just things that come with running a restaurant that people take for granted.
Right. 100%. I mean, it's, being relatable, right? And that's what we try to provide, so awesome, guys. So, thank you for joining us. I think there might be a couple of questions here. Let me see. All right. Yeah. A couple of questions here. Is there any way I can improve results on how many people actually come back when they write a bad review? So, yes and no. So you can do as much as you can, right? And like I was saying, you definitely need to wow them. You have to have that system in place where you have a offer incentive that you're going to offer. Give them the free meal and the whole experience, right? But then after that, just follow that process that I just talked about. Follow up after the visit, right? Be direct and be relatable, right? And show genuine interest, right? Don't sound like a robot, okay? And then, if you do that, the chances that they'll come back are much greater, okay? And yes, I have no question here. Tony, I don't have the time to read all the reviews. How can I streamline this? Well, Avi.
I'll take that one. Look, a couple of ways, right? Leveraging a tool like Marquee, we have insights that allow you to kind of get the highlights, right? If you, again, when I talked about that word cloud earlier, being able to leverage that word cloud for a week at a time, you can also start looking at your data that way, right? If you don't have time to go through, if you're getting 1,000 reviews a month, you got to be able to get the highlights quickly and easily, right? You want to address these issues. So a couple of different ways you can streamline that, but we have tools and insights that help.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then there's another question here. Rachel, I'm running marketing for 3 locations and I don't have a lot of extra time. What should I prioritize if I only have 10 to 15 minutes a day? Avi, you want to take that one?
Yeah. I mean, look, on the review side, I would focus on those 2s and 3s, those reviews, because your 1s and 5s are at the ends of the spectrum, right? Your 1s had just an awful experience. Hopefully you can get them back in and get a fresh start. It's your 2s and 3s that there's opportunity for improvement, right? Hey, we've all seen that review. The food was actually surprisingly great, but my server was really grumpy and there was a crying baby next to me, so 2 stars. Okay, well, there's a lot you can do to maybe correct that situation. They gave you the in that your food was great. Let's get them back in. Let's work on another shot. It's going to be easier to move 2s and 3s up than those 1s, right? That's if you have 10 to 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. If you have a true strategy and the time and the resources, of course, you want to focus on all of it, right? You prioritize all of it. But 10 to 15 minutes a day, look at those 2s and 3s. How can you move them up? Look at the 4s, right? How can you move those up in that cycle of reviews?
Right. So if you have this process in place that we just discussed, like it shouldn't be an issue. Even with 15 minutes a day, you can respond to every single review, mostly, unless you're running 20 locations and you won't, right? But if you're running 1 or 2 locations, I think you can definitely, with using a platform like Marquee, which makes this, a lot easier, you can respond to those reviews very quickly. Okay. And if you have the templates, right? If you have the whole system that we just discussed, you will have the time to respond to those reviews. Now, again, like if there's more locations, then there's a time for that. Okay. You respond to, like Avi was saying, prioritize the really bad ones, go for that, and then go for the good ones. Okay. And then you'll make the time for that. Okay, perfect. Anything else? I think that's it. All right, guys. Well, thank you again for being here, for taking the time. And Avi, thank you so much again for you to be here and share all this information and with our guests.
Thank you for having me. These are awesome and so important, and appreciate you taking the time and patience to work with us.
Oh, thank you, guys. All right, guys. Thank you so much. One more thing. If you guys need anything, if you need help, just let us know. Here are the contact emails. Of course, contact@breathmarketing.com. You can reach out to me directly. We're actually going to send this webinar. Also, if you guys wanted to go back and review some of the stuff that we discussed is here. If you guys actually want the process written or something like that, we actually have that. So if you want it, just send us an email. We'll be happy to share that with you.